What do you do when you achieve the impossible and the world still says no? If you're Mary T. Washington Wiley, you start your own firm and change history anyways. I'm Autumn Fnaf.
And I'm Dr. Victoria Bateman. Throughout time, women's contributions have often been underappreciated. Yet they've shaped policy, theory, and practice in profound ways. Here, we honour their stories, highlight their ideas, and celebrate the impact they've had on shaping our world. Let's begin.
In this episode, we're going to talk about the brilliant Mary T. Washington Wiley, the first African American woman to become a certified accountant, who was born in Mississippi in 1906 and lived to be almost 100. So, Victoria, why is Washington Wiley one of your favorite women from history?
Well, she was a woman who achieved great things, but had a really tough start in life. Her mother died when she was only 6, and she was sent to live with her grandmother. Now, sadly, she didn't have the best grandmother in the world. Her grandmother was neglectful and abusive. And that left Washington Wiley really desperate to leave home and find work. And that, of course, would have meant dropping out of school. Fortunately, a teacher who spotted her mathematical abilities from a young age took Washington Wiley under her wing and really looked after her, took her into her home. And that meant that she could stay on in school and build a much more secure future for herself. After school, she started working at a black-owned bank, the Binger State Bank, where the vice president, who was himself one of the first 2 black men to become a certified accountant, soon spotted her talent. He encouraged her to go to university and made sure that alongside she continued with the practical experience that was needed in order to qualify for her accountancy license, what's known as the CPA. And not only did she get to university, Northwestern University, to study business, she was the only woman in her class. And what's really great, Autumn, is that her academic interests combine yours, maths, and mine, business and economics. So I thought she was the perfect choice for this series. So tell me more, Autumn, about American society at the time that Wiley was growing up, because as an African-American woman, I can imagine that she would have faced both sexism and racism at the same time.
Yes. So when she was growing up in the early 1900s, especially in Mississippi, racial segregation was enforced by law under Jim Crow, which meant Black Americans had separate schools, hospitals, and public spaces, all of which were underfunded and unequal. At the same time, women were widely excluded from professional careers and only had just gained the right to vote in 1920. So, as a Black woman, she would have faced both systemic racism and entrenched sexism at every single stage of her education and career.
And I guess on top of that, by the end of the 1920s, the US was in the middle of the Great Depression. So all in all, it really wasn't the best period of history to be a woman starting out from nothing, hoping to build a stable and secure future for yourself. And the particular challenge that Washington faced was that despite successfully achieving her accountancy license, the first African-American woman to do so in the United States, despite that, no accountancy firm would actually hire her.
So, plot twist, in 1943, she decided to open up her own accountancy firm in her basement.
And that must have been quite a risk, don't you think? But
Definitely.
it was a risk that paid off. She became the accountant of choice for Black-owned businesses in her neighborhood, growing her client base by word of mouth. So basically by doing a good job for her clients. And did you know that her accountancy business was so successful that it became one of the biggest Black-owned companies in America?
With that, what strikes you as particularly groundbreaking about Washington Wiley's work?
Well, she was no doubt a pioneer. As we've said, the first woman of African American origin to become a certified public CPA. But she also wanted to open doors for others following in her footsteps. So she was on a mission. With her business, she made sure to hire fellow African Americans, men and women, who were being turned away from other accountancy firms and supported them through their training so they could get their own license. Now, 2 of her employees went on to become partners in her business. She invited them to become partners. One of them, Lester McKeever, also went on to become the chair of the Federal Reserve Bank in Chicago. And when Washington Wiley retired from her business, aged 75, she was gifted a charm bracelet with a charm to represent each of the 30 employees that had earned their CPA license whilst working for her. So she wasn't just a pioneer and a role model. She was a mentor who helped others. And that's not something that should be taken for granted. So, Autumn, what's your fun fact about Washington Wiley?
So, something that you might not find in the history books. As an elderly lady, she used to spend her days helping children with their math homework. Not just her own grandchildren, but the children of people who worked at the accountancy firm that she set up. So she passed on her passion for math right up until the end of her life. So she passed away at the age of 99 in 2005. Mary T. Washington Wiley didn't just balance books. She balanced barriers. She hired and trained Black accountants when the profession shut its doors. She built opportunity where there was exclusion. When she retired, she was given a charm bracelet, one charm for each accountant who earned their CPA under her mentorship. 30 charms, not just a career. It was a lineage. She didn't just make history, she multiplied it. And as always, stay curious because you might just change history.